Welcome to The Issue Is. I'm Elex Michaelson. This week, a powerhouse panel of pundits take on the hot topics. Joining us, TV host, actress, and producer Melissa Rivers, actor and comedian Jimmie "JJ Good Times" Walker, and Hasan Piker, known as Woke Bae from the Young Turks. The issue is collusion with Russia. Could President Trump's former lawyer Michael Cohen bring him down? The issue is Roseanne's apology. Is it enough? Should she be hired again? The Issue Is starts right now. And welcome to The Issue Is. I'm Elex Michaelson. A great group this week with very different perspectives. Hasan Piker from the Young Turks is with us. He's known as Woke Bae online. He's one of the most influential progressive commentators in the digital space. His videos often reaching millions of people. Melissa Rivers is also here. She's a well-known host, activist, philanthropist, producer, and author. Her book, entitled Joan Rivers Confidential, is available in bookstores now. Jimmie Walker also here. He's an actor, comedian, activist who's often supportive of President Trump. Many of you may remember Jimmie as Mr. Dynamite from the TV show Good Times. He has a new stand-up special with Michael Winslow entitled We Are Still Here, coming out on August 7th on multiple platforms, including Amazon, iTunes, Google Play, plus multiple cable and satellite providers, and an album released on August 10th. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, and welcome to you all. So let's begin with the big story of the week. The issue is attorney-client privilege. President Trump's longtime personal attorney has reportedly flipped on him. Multiple news agencies reporting that Michael Cohen is ready to testify that Donald Trump did know ahead of time about that Trump Tower meeting with the Russians, that it was about finding dirt on Hillary Clinton. The president's current attorney, Rudy Giuliani, says Cohen can't be trusted. Take a listen.
I expected something like this from Cohen. He's been lying all week. I mean, he's been lying for years.
So, Hasan, should Donald Trump be worried?
Look, I don't think Donald Trump should necessarily be worried, partially because we've already gone down this road. He admitted he asked a foreign adversarial nation to hack the DNC on national television, which they did. And then he followed up with, when he was investigated for whether or not he was colluding with Russia, he fired his FBI director and then went on national television again and admitted that he fired James Comey because of the investigation. So there's a clear obstruction of justice right there, and there's enough evidence to claim that he potentially colluded with Russia. So if that hasn't hurt him up to this point with an 88% approval rating from the GOP, I don't know if any other insurmountable evidence is going to actually change people's minds at this point.
What I find, I agree with you. Start with that. But I don't understand why any of us find this shocking at this point. Oh my God, he knew. Really? Like,
Yeah.
like at this point, you just go, this is also completely exhausting. He will say, and I know him, and I will just do the disclaimer. Mr. Trump was always very kind and very generous to my family on a personal level. Mm-hmm. That is, I fall into the category of people that really are having a very hard time of rectifying the person that I know or knew versus the person that is running our country. That to me is a UFO that I'm seeing on TV.
Yeah.
And the hair, definitely, like, that is not human hair. But that is a completely different show.
Jimmie, should it matter?
It doesn't matter because there's nobody who doesn't believe that Donald Trump didn't sleep with a lot of chicks, that he didn't pay a lot of chicks. We got it. And the thing that kills me is he did the joke about, oh, if the Russians are listening to this, turn over the 33,000 emails. That was a joke, people.
But this is a whole different thing. People who aren't funny should not try to be funny.
Right. You know what
and
that's
that
like
gets
saying?
him in trouble a lot.
That's like saying when people say, man, I'm so hungry I could eat a horse. Are you going to bring a horse out here for people to eat? No. It was a joke. It's a thing. I don't even think.
Well, it's also his bluster, but it's also his bluster.
And Hasan, you didn't think it was a joke, did you?
No, because look, if you have a history, if you have a history of eating horses, or you may or may not have been spotted with horses, and then horses go missing, and then all of a sudden you're on TV going, hey, I'm so hungry I could eat a horse, then maybe you like eating horses.
We gotta
the
time
Russian
check that
thing
one.
is a business thing. He's still in a business mode. He's
everyone-
still trying to build hotels, still trying to build resorts. He wants to get into Russia and have this big, gigantic Trump Tower in Russia.
But you don't have a
And you're
problem
fine
with
with
you don't
that.
have a problem with that?
That's what he's been doing all his life. You got to realize most politicians,
the president now.
the majority of politicians have never worked for a living. He has worked, and it's tricky in business because you have to be a little bit of a lowlife, and he is a little bit of a lowlife. That's okay.
This gets into a bigger issue for me, which is, why did anyone expect anything different?
He would be saying the same thing if he was Donald Trump citizen.
But-
Yeah,
He would be saying the same
and
thing.
last question for you. Are you okay with that? Do you think that's a good thing to have the president act that
it's
way?
like, you know what it's like? It's like going to see Andrew Dice Clay and go, my God, they was cursing.
Donald Trump is not an entertainer anymore. Donald Trump is the president of the United States of America.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there.
So do you like the policies, is
He
what
was
I'm
never
asking.
an entertainer. He's a salesman.
Do you like Donald Trump's policies?
Not
do you
all
like
of
the
it.
policies
Not
that
all
you've
of
enacted?
it.
that he's
I don't
enacted?
agree. I don't agree with all of his policies.
Which
I don't,
policies do you- if you
I
don't
don't
mind me
disagree
asking?
with all of them. I don't agree with all of them. It's
Okay.
like having a son or a daughter and saying, I agree with everything my son or daughter does. There's still, even though you may not like some of the things they've done, they're still your son, your daughter,
Is Donald
your
Trump
mom.
your son? I'm confused.
He's my president, and I'm going with it.
We're going to leave it there, but we're going to have more with our panel when we come back. The issue is family separations. This week, a court-imposed deadline for the Trump administration to reunite the families separated at the border. The administration says it reunited about 1,400 families. There are at least 700 kids still in custody. Democratic Congresswoman Karen Bass of L.A. recently visited some of those kids. She spoke with me this week on Good Day L.A. Take a listen.
And so my biggest fear is that for those children that have not been reunited with their parents, I'm not sure they're ever going to.
So, Jimmie, is this a good policy?
I think there's a split on the policy. What he's saying is, do not come to this country, you cannot get in. But the splitting of parents and taking kids away out of their mom's arms is a horrible part of the policy.
This was so horrific that at least now we're trying to take very proactive steps. But again, which I go back to, is Trump is so explosive that even someone who does not support 90% of his issues, he's at least forcing us to learn.
I agree
And he
with
is at
Melissa.
least
Here's what I will add on to it, right? So Donald Trump has kind of exhausted 30, 40, 50 years of anti-immigration sentiment into its final conclusion. He's actively dehumanizing the immigrants that are coming in by calling MS-13 animals. We're getting angry at the fact that
I think MS-13 are animals, and I think they've done some
Well, I think
serious
that's what he's
damage.
saying. It's
yeah,
not
but it's an
about
extension
them.
of that.
Right.
It's a separate dehumanization of immigrant criminals.
We now have drug dealers. We now have people that are killing people in this country and doing tremendous damage. Not only shooting and stabbing and cutting people up, but bringing drugs to spread to our youth, especially in the urban areas.
But
You're familiar with crime statistics in immigration, right? Because not only are naturalized citizens way less likely to commit crimes than natural-born U.S. citizens, immigrants and also undocumented immigrants are severely underrepresented in the criminal population overall. It's fear-mongering.
But here's the-
it's not.
Yeah.
It's not based in evidence.
Stop.
Yeah.
Here's the
Melissa.
problem.
Last
But
point.
here's the problem. You guys are so busy cross-talking and not even making an attempt to listen with any kind. You're both so locked in.
Not me.
You're a little locked in. You're very locked in. You're both so locked in. Again, this is where we get in trouble. It does not diminish what you believe, but I think so much of the problem we're having is no one is communicating in an effective way. I have a teenager. The last 3 years of my life has been learning to communicate with someone that is a subhuman species. Okay?
All right. Well, we're gonna have to leave it there for now. We want to get to some music, though. Jimmie's choice is "Take 5" by Dave Brubeck, a great song. Up next, one of the most powerful men in Hollywood could be taken down by the Me Too movement, while another fights back. And is Roseanne's apology good enough? We'll talk about that on the other side. Good times in Hollywood tonight, and every time we get to spend time with one of the stars of Good Times. We've got a great panel tonight. From Good Times, we got Jimmie Walker, Melissa Rivers, Hasan Piker is here. Check this out. Some breaking news on Deadline.com. Norman Lear signing a deal with Sony to reboot all of his old shows, including Good Times. Jimmy, what do you think about that?
I think it's great. I hope he uses me in some light, some fashion. But anyway, I think Norman's mind is still sharp as ever. I see him once in a while. He is a legend in this business. He's a legend in sitcoms. I think every producer owes him something, and he's the guy that does it. So I'm very proud to have know him, and he's just great.
Let's go to some Hollywood news, which is not so triumphant. We're talking about the Me Too movement, #MeToo. It continues to target some of Hollywood's most powerful. Another bombshell report from Ronan Farrow of The New Yorker. Les Moonves, the CEO of CBS, accused of inappropriate touching and kissing both years ago and more recently. But there's now a backlash regarding others who have been kicked to the curb. Two examples of that: Chris Hardwick, host of the AMC channel shows Talking Dead and Midnight with Chris Hardwick. He's back on the air after an investigation into a claim of sexual assault by an ex-girlfriend was apparently found to be without merit. Meantime, director James Gunn kicked off the next Guardians of the Galaxy movie after a series of tasteless jokes were discovered on his Twitter from years ago. Some in the industry are standing up for Gunn. The Hollywood Reporter: in firing James Gunn, Disney hurts all of Hollywood. The website Vulture: Disney should know the difference between James Gunn and Roseanne. And a Change.org petition now nearing its goal of 500,000 signatures calling on Disney to rehire the director. So the question is, how do you differentiate between a career-ending felony offense and a misdemeanor that can be recovered from, Melissa?
Okay, first of all, part of the problem is we can't, again, revisionist history. What was maybe you might see as a tasteless joke now may have been socially perfectly acceptable when he said them. Also, and I know Matt Damon got in trouble for saying this, but I agreed with Matt, and I said it at the time, which is we cannot paint all of these offenses with the same paintbrush. What Harvey Weinstein did versus what James Gunn did, vastly different. It doesn't make any of it right, but a couple of bad jokes. By the way, we are all in the same boat. If someone went back and looked at stuff you said, or well, God only knows what you said, and in my family, you can't do it. There's so many shades of gray in here, and we must be careful that we do not turn into a lynch mob or the Salem witch trials. And unfortunately, that is where we were headed. It seems to be stepping back a little now.
I think this has gone out of control. Harvey Weinstein, okay, he's completely guilty. But the majority of these guys are not guilty of anything. If you say a woman's attractive, if you say anything, you're in trouble. And I think a lot of it is who is saying it. And if you look at the guys that got in trouble, Bill O'Reilly, Roger Ailes, these are fat, old, bald guys. Women hate these cats. Do you see Drake? Do you see Leo DiCaprio? They're dating 10 women a day. If you're a fat, old, bald guy in your 80s and you're a billionaire and you didn't go out with a 20-year-old, you're insane. Get off the catnip. You're done. I see my friends. I see like Azaria. This girl went out with him.
Yeah.
She participated. Yeah. Stop it.
Yeah,
Stop it.
You don't get to
I
say
think women need to be sometimes slapped sometimes and say, hey, stop. You don't like the guy? You don't like the guy.
Do you really think that?
Yeah,
that they should be slapped?
Oh, come on, he's clearly going for the joke.
It's a joke. Golly. Good Lord, people relax.
I feel like Garrett Morris in the old Saturday Night Live routine. That was a joke.
There's a conflation on both sides between problematic behavior and abusive behavior, and then violently abusive behavior. And both sides are doing this. The reality is, people have the capacity to change. People have the capacity to get better. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because of Roseanne. Right. Roseanne and James Gunn are two entirely different instances, because Roseanne, as you may or may not remember, you guys probably know her personally even, I don't know.
With her.
But yeah, I play Fortnite with her son from time to time. He's cool. But look, Roseanne is an entirely different story. She was liberal, and then her political perspective changed drastically. But Roseanne is continuing some very problematic string of not just offensive tweets, but just really scary ideas.
Let's talk a little more about Roseanne.
She shouldn't have been fired.
She gave her first interview since being fired for that racist tweet about President Obama's advisor Valerie Jarrett. Sean Hannity gave her a chance to apologize directly to Jarrett. Take a look.
But if she's watching, I'm so sorry that you thought I was racist and that you thought that my tweet was racist, because it wasn't. It was political.
I'm liking the new hair color. Just putting that out there. Just putting that out there.
I'm so sorry that you thought I was racist. It's not an apology. She doesn't care. Like, that's what I'm saying. When people repeatedly commit the same sort of mistakes, they're showing everyone that they don't care, that they are not. They don't want to change.
But let's get you in. Why do you think she shouldn't have been fired?
I think she shouldn't have been fired for this reason. She has proved her point of doing very good deeds for a lot of people.
Just because people have done good things.
Okay, but here, go ahead. But then I want to jump in about
Samantha Bee called Ivanka Trump the C word, okay? The Me Too movement has said little, if anything, about it. She remains on the air. If that had been Laura Ingraham, who called Chelsea Clinton the C word, we would be talking about it, standing up here, going berserk. To this day, it would still be talked about.
Yeah.
So where's the Me Too movement?
Laura Ingraham has said way worse things, not about women maybe, but about black men at least.
That is their number one caveat. They would go insane if somebody called somebody the C word. Never said a word.
Do you think a movement of both men and women mobilizing against sexual assault and harassment is centered around whether or not liberals are allowed to say the C word?
I don't think anybody's allowed to say it.
Can we go back to Roseanne for 1 second?
Because that's a gross mischaracterization of an important progressive movement.
By the way, we live in a world of constant gross mischaracterization of everything, and it's exhausting. With Roseanne, that was the non-apology apology. I do not like what she said. I disagree with what she said. I do agree that she should have been fired when you worked for a company, and that's the hand signing your check. You best read the company handbook about what you're allowed to do and wear, and not be, that's part of the job. You are representing a company.
Sure.
Now, if you don't want to represent the company, don't take the money. Maybe just have to say those things in private and not blast them out on Twitter. Okay. Now, we're also talking about someone with clear mental health issues, which is another show.
Sure, and we'll have to get to that on another show, so we're going to have to leave that conversation there. But let's get to some more music. This is Melissa's choice. It's Beautiful Day from U2. And we want to give you a reminder that all of our past, current, and future episodes are available in podcast form. Just search for The Issue Is wherever you stream podcasts. Next week, Sean Spicer will be here. So this week, my question is for the panel. What's your one question you would ask Sean Spicer? Stay with us for that. Next week on The Issue Is, we spiced up our lives. President Trump's first press secretary will be here to talk about his controversial new memoir. Spicer's book tour already fiery, especially with this moment with a BBC anchor.
You played with the truth. You led us down a dangerous path. You have corrupted discourse for the entire world by going along with these lies.
So we're back with our panel. If you could ask Sean Spicer one question, what would it be? Jimmie.
Will he ever get the correct size of the inaugural crowd together?
Was he ever worried he was going to be struck by lightning during a press briefing?
Okay. Hasan?
I hope you're uncomfortable for the rest of your life for the things that you've done leading up to this moment.
Stop it.
Yeah. Okay. Before we go, I want to ask each of you, what do you think is the next big issue for next week, or the big thing that isn't necessarily being talked about enough that should be talked about more? Hasan?
The one issue that all American politicians can get on board with is porky defense budgets. We just passed a $760 billion defense budget, I believe.
Until we tackle the problem of education everything else is going to remain the same.
Jimmie.
You got to get some health care, whether it be socialized or whatever it is, but it's got to be a little better. The only other issue after that is how much money do you have?
All right. To wrap things up, we've got two songs. First off, a happy birthday to Hasan.
Oh.
We got a little Stevie Wonder to wish you a happy 27th birthday. Very, very impressive. What
made
you've
it.
been able to do. And since your nickname is Woke Bay,
Oh, God.
we've got a song for you on that theme as well. This is all about staying woke.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up.
Sean Spicer is going to be with us on Monday morning on Good Day LA at 7 a.m. and then with us again next Friday night here for The Issue Is. Have a great weekend, and don't forget, stay woke. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Good job.